Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today was round 9 of Sharjah Challengers, the final round. What happened? What did I do? Let's take a look at my game. So in round 9, I faced Upadhyaya Anwesh from India, international master, rated 2345. And my opponent has had a really good tournament thus far. So I knew it was going to be quite challenging. So let's see what happened in the game. I was playing with the white pieces again, which is quite crazy because I just played in round 8 also with the white pieces. So this was a little bit of a surprise, but I was really excited because it's easier to win with white than with black, of course. So, and it's also easy to decide what am I actually going to play on the first move. And guess what? I did not play the move e4. I was looking at my opponent's games and I thought I didn't really want to play another e4, e5 and step into some preparation, and I thought I want to change it up and play the move d4 because I thought I just wanted to keep it simple. I really wanted to have some attack going on and some exciting game, but at the same time I thought d4 maybe can prove me wrong as well, that it's exciting in a way. We'll see. Knight f6 is what my opponent played, knight f3, d5, and I played c4. So the plan was to go for a Slav exchange. So my opponent usually has played the Slav in these kind of lines, in these positions. He plays a Slav, and I thought I'm just going to take on d5 and play like that. But then he plays e6, and we're now in the Queen's Gambit decline. This is not what I prepared, and I thought, oh, I just walked into this. I played knight c3, c6. So here we switch to the semi-Slav, but now if I take on d5, which I actually did, e takes d5, now we are back to the Queen's Gambit decline variation, which is the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit. So this is very confusing because I was so sure that I was going to have this position, but I have this position now. However, I'm not too upset about this because I have played this with the black pieces so many times and I hated every single time my position back in the day, like many years ago. So I know the ideas more or less of white. It comes down to the Carlsbad pawn structure that we see here, and I have quite some experience here. So I thought, okay, at least I know something about this position. I'm not completely clueless here. I played bishop g5, bishop e7, e3. Bishop f5, the bishop comes out, and I simply traded off over here, and my opponent went for a5, and I was a bit surprised by this because I don't remember doing this myself when I was playing this with the black pieces. I usually would go for knight d7, short castle, rook e8, knight f8, and simply maneuver the knight wherever possible for, let's say, g6 or e6. Over here, this square. So the knight goes places, but here my opponent for a5 with the idea to put the knight on a6 and then c7 and perhaps to e6. And it makes a lot of sense, but I thought that this idea may be wrong. So let's see what happens next. Short castle, knight e5. I thought, okay, this knight is not developing, so I'm just going to play active and put the knight on e5 with the idea to play f4 and expand on the king side and start attacking there. Knight a6 what was played, f4, knight c7, rook f3, and I thought, okay, let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready to threaten rook h3, threaten to checkmate on h7 because I can take on f6, right? So that knight is loose on f6. But here, my opponent went for knight e4, which is a huge mistake. And during the game, so my opponent spent quite some time here on this move, over 10 minutes. And here I decided to, okay, I need to take a closer look what's going on here because I thought that maybe knight e4 was possible a few moves ago, but now I was not entirely sure. And I needed to check what is going on. So, of course, the two moves that come into mind are knight takes e4, to simply capture that knight off the board, and bishop takes e7. So I thought, okay, let's see what happens. First, bishop takes e7. This is the move I played. Well, as you can see, it comes with some issues. Bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, and the reason why this is not so great is because I cannot take on e4. Queen takes e4 and f6, and my knight is pinned, and I'm losing my knight on the next move. Maybe I can have some counterplay with rook h3, and it gets tricky after g6, but I'm still losing that piece somehow, one way or the other. So I didn't really like this, of course, and I thought, okay, I cannot play knight takes e4 now, but I can just keep going and maybe start an attack somehow on the king side. Now back to this position, what is good about knight takes e4? Because after knight takes e4, d takes e4, queen takes e4. What terrified me, I have to take back, by the way, because my queen and rook are forked. I have to take back, and what terrified me over here was the move f6, because it's a fork. My knight and bishop are under attack. Why would I go into this position? So I calculated the following. Rook h3. So if you take on g5, then queen takes h7 is checkmate. So you can't take that bishop, but you can take the knight. And that is where it gets tricky, because I can take on h7, king f7, and turns out that this position is super good for me. But in the game, I was not entirely sure. I see the position, I see that I can take some pawns here and there, but I could not quite figure out that I'm actually better here. Because now bishop h6, if you defend with bishop f6, of course I take on e5, and black's position is completely falling apart. If rook g8, this is what made me hesitate a lot, because I could not really understand or figure out that I was better in any way. I'm missing quite a few pieces. I mean, I'm down a piece for some pawns, but I need more pieces to attack, because I felt like this king is simply running away, and I didn't really know what else I could do. But now that I see it in hindsight, it all makes sense. It all makes so much sense, because I simply take on e5. The next I want to do is rook g3 to attack the pawn on g7. I can play f5 to support e6, and this king cannot really move, because if you play king e8, you lose the rook, right? If you play king f8, then I can check you here, then I play e6 on the next move. It's a complete disaster. And it's so upsetting to see in hindsight that this is actually so good, because I see this line, but I could not quite figure out that it was actually so completely winning. I think it's a combination of not wanting to take risks too much, and at the same time not having the full board visible. Because if you show me, let's say this position, and you tell me bishop h6, rook g8, if you show this position to me, it makes so much more sense that I can it's easier to give the to estimate this as much better for me. But during the game, I was not sure. I could not figure it out, and I thought it was basically more of a feeling situation that black should be fine. Black has an extra piece. Surely black will have some compensation, and I just couldn't figure it out. The concrete moves that were just not really there for some reason. I don't know. For some reason, I was not sure about sacrificing the piece here, because essentially after queen takes e4, I'm sacrificing the piece after f6. So if black doesn't go for this line, then black is of course just a pawn down for nothing, and not much going on here. If bishop takes g5, f takes g5, queen takes g5, then I was sure that this position was good for me, because the pawn on f7 is vulnerable. I'm going to attack it once again with my rook. The other rook comes in, and I have good faith in an attack on the king side over here, because the queen is very vulnerable here. This knight is a little bit out of play, and the rooks are just very passive of black. So yeah, that's why I thought this line is not good for black. But yeah, as I said, f6 was my biggest concern, and this is why I didn't go for this. And because of that, I played bishop takes e7, because what else is there? And ever since I played this move, I was suffering, because queen takes e7, rook h3 is what I played. Because I thought, okay, now knight takes c3 is not a move, because then I checkmate on h7, of course. f6, I retreat. Knight e8, I thought it was a strange move, but didn't think too much about it. g4, because I thought I am going to attack. I'm going to attack no matter what, because I am confident and I want to crush on the king side. But knight d6, knight e2, and this is where things start to get very shaky. Rook e8, king g2. I thought I was being super clever here, because I want to play rook g1 and then king f1 and put the king in a safe spot, and that rook is going to support the attack. But then my opponent played queen d7, and then it all made sense. I'm actually going to lose this game. Because f5, my pawn on g4 is really difficult to defend, because if I play g5, there's queen takes h3, king takes knight f2 fork. So I definitely cannot push the g pawn. So I have to play the move f5. But if I play f5, there's g6, and my opponent is still trying to get into my king side with the queen. So I played knight f4 to try to find counterplay, but it's basically hopeless here because knight takes f5, rook g1, rook f7. My opponent defends very carefully. I gave a check with the king, so I guess, you know, that counts at least for something. Some satisfaction can be found there in this game. Rook g7, rook takes, queen takes. And here I'm just struggling to find a move. I'm struggling to find a move that doesn't lose on the spot because there's a billion different threats here. This queen is simply coming in on g4 and knight g5. This pawn is vulnerable. This pawn, everything is just hanging. Everything is just super loose. I play king e2 hoping that I can escape, maybe queen d1, I can support and try to trade queens, because if I trade queens, maybe I have drawing chances. But then queen g4, and I realize that a lot of things are actually hanging here. Knight g5 is the threat, attacking my rook. The knight is pinned, and I just can't move my pieces. I play rook h5, knight g5, takes. I'm trying to create some threats here still with knight h5, because if you're not careful here and play rook takes e3, then you may actually lose because knight takes and knight f6 check. Apparently this is still winning for black, but I have to try something to complicate matters. But of course, at knight h5, queen g2 check, king e1, and after rook takes e3, I thought, okay, this is it. I'm resigning, and my opponent won this game. So very unfortunate finish, honestly. Quite devastating because I was competing for the women's prize in this tournament. I just had a really good game, and now I'm ending the tournament on this, and it feels quite underwhelming after all, especially because I was better. I was in a much better position. I had a huge advantage already on this move, and I didn't play this properly, accurately, and that's just so upsetting. It's just so upsetting because, you know, when you have the chance to do something great, and then you don't. So yeah, it feels a little bit upsetting, of course. And I know that if I want to become a woman grandmaster, if I want to get better at chess, I need to be able to go for these lines and actually understand these kind of situations better and actually do better, and not just go for bishop takes e7 and we'll see what happens. So yeah, did not evaluate this properly, and but that's basically what happened in the game. After this I was losing, and my opponent completely outplayed me, played super well, and yeah, what to do? So yeah, a bit of an underwhelming finish to the tournament. I finished with 5 points out of 9. I'm still gaining a few rating points, not so many, but I'm super happy that I'm not losing rating, because I was in a really bad situation during the tournament, losing quite a few rating points, but I managed to catch up in the last few rounds, and ending on a plus, somewhat plus, is still very nice, and I can look back to an awesome experience. So yeah, that was Sharjah Challengers 2024. A really awesome tournament, really enjoyed it over here. But yeah, we'll see where we go next, because this is not it. I'm ready to play more tournaments, super excited to compete, and yeah, I gained so much knowledge, so much experience in this tournament, and I want to take it with me to my next tournament. So stay tuned for our next tournament. Thank you so much for all support, everyone. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these recaps every single day. So excited to do them. I hope you enjoyed them, and I hope to see you in the next video, wherever, whenever that may be. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.